Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Rewatch. My name's Samuel,
My name is Jayden.
and San Diego Comic-Con is currently on or has just finished, and we're going to take a look at the many announcements that have come from Marvel Studios relating to the MCU. We've got a few things to go through. One very big announcement that is taking the internet by storm, but there's a few other things that we'll give our thoughts on. Let's dive straight in. First one, I think, of note, obviously, if we cast our minds back to last year's Comic-Con, which essentially, or whereby Marvel essentially came out and released a bunch of logos and said these are the Avengers movies that are coming. And one of them was Avengers Kang Dynasty, I believe, and the other one was Avengers Secret Wars.
Yep.
And they've come out and done pretty much the exact same thing and said, by the way, guys, we're doing two Avengers movies. In one of them is called Avengers Secret Wars, so there's absolutely no change there. They're just announcing the same thing again. But they're also announcing Avengers Doomsday, which is a title change because obviously they've gotten rid of Mr. Kang.
Yes, Mr. Kang has been snapped away.
He's been cancelled.
I just find it funny how they did like a whole big reveal for like Secret Wars again when we already knew it was coming. Like they went like screen black. And then it like slowly came on the screen and everyone went like insane. But I mean, we've already seen this.
Yeah.
Why are we getting crazy again?
You know what? Don't get too excited because next year's Comic-Con, I'm sure it's going to be another logo.
Yeah, they'll change the title.
Another logo, but they'll change the title, they'll change the color, and they'll change the font a bit.
Yep.
But whether they're actually going to get on and make these movies is a different question because they've been firing directors constantly. But maybe their solution to that is now publicly announcing that the Russo bros, who, in my opinion, are the only reason why the MCU is seen as a successful franchise, because they made the most important movie being Civil War, because that led into, or gave really interesting conflict for an Avengers movie, which then they also made Avengers Infinity War, and then obviously finishing it all off with a grand finale in Avengers Endgame. So, a lot of people praise Kevin Feige for the MCU, but for me, if you take the Russo bros out of the MCU, you don't have a lot there. So what did you think about the Russo bros being announced as coming in and, reportedly going to, save these Avengers movies?
Yeah, I think we also shouldn't forget they did Captain America: The Winter Soldier, which was another.
Yeah, but I mean, that's success, for me. Yeah, it's not a significant one if you look at like the MCU overall, because if you take out those Infinity War and Endgame, there's nothing really. It all was building to nothing if those movies didn't exist and were good. And the only two people we can thank for that are Russo number 1 and Russo number 2.
Yeah, look, I think it was a really smart move in getting the Russo brothers back. More of like a PR move than anything, right? Like the MCU's been in shambles for the last, man, has it been like 4 years? It's been 4 years or something, hasn't it? It's
5 years if you go from Endgame, 2019 Endgame came out.
Yeah, and I mean, look, you have your one.
I'd argue we haven't gotten a good movie since, except for maybe No Way Home.
Which isn't a good movie. We haven't
had a single good thing.
It's not a good movie. It's just it's a fun movie, right? But I would say that Infinity War is a decent movie. Strong plot, blah blah blah.
For sure, absolutely.
But bringing the Russos back is a really smart move. Obviously, they probably agreed for a really, really, really hefty bag. So I mean,
good on them, I guess.
Yeah, good on them.
But I mean, the Russo bros for me, they do really good team up movies, and they make sure all the characters get their own sort of time to shine.
Yeah.
They and that's really their strength.
And I think that's like so necessary for these upcoming films, especially Secret Wars, because Secret Wars is going to have like the whole Avengers roster on it. So they more than anyone can balance these characters and give them all the screen time that they deserve.
Absolutely, absolutely. Another thing that was announced, which again has already been announced,
Yeah.
is Thunderbolts. And a lot of people are talking about how the Thunderbolts title has an asterisk after it. You know, it's Thunderbolts asterisk. I do not care. I don't know what they're trying to do there. I don't care. You know, there's some sort of mystery we got to find out. No, zero.
You're gonna
Zero
see like
fucks
on the official theatrical poster, it's gonna have like a disclaimer at the bottom with an asterisk. It's gonna be like several reshoots have been done for this film, so please take it lightly.
I think for me, it's almost like these are superheroes asterisks, because this
Yeah.
is supposed to be like the Marvel Suicide Squad, right?
Yeah.
And so Florence Pugh is obviously going to be in it, as well as David Harbour.
Mm-hmm.
And look, those two do not bring excitement for me, not because they're bad actors and actresses, but because of their characters in the MCU were just awful in that Black Widow movie, which I've been trying to forget ever since I saw it. And unfortunately, there are a few things that have just been burnt into my memory about that film. So
That
look,
one
I'm not
explosion
excited for the
shot.
Thunderbolts. Yeah, that's it. So what's your excitement level for the Thunderbolts?
Honestly, it's like it's about a zero. Like it's a nothing movie, really. I couldn't care less about it. Um, it's going to feed into what we're going to talk about very shortly, which is Captain America 4, which again, I don't really care much for. I'm
Honestly, the
still,
trailer for this, which they released a few weeks ago, didn't look too bad.
yeah.
But I think there is no way that you do as many reshoots as they did for this movie and it not turn out to be really bad. So I think somehow they've managed to work a miracle
Yeah.
and get a trailer that looks half decent, and people are going to get really excited now, and it's going to be a big letdown. Sam Wilson as Captain America, they already ruined him before he even got started in the Disney Plus show, just making him insufferable, which is a shame because he was a really cool Falcon.
Yep.
And Bucky's not in this movie apparently, which is a
What?
big misstep for me. So yeah, look, not excited for Captain America Brave New whatever it's called,
That's
because they've changed the
crazy.
title a few times for this as well.
That's actually insane that he's not in the film. I didn't realize that. I'm still of the belief that um, Bucky should have been Captain America. Like I just think he's been there since the very start with Cap and Chris Evans Cap, and yeah, so I've never really been too fond of Falcon becoming Captain America, I guess.
Yeah, another announcement, and this is probably the biggest one. Biggest one in terms of the MCU's future going forward. Because if this movie's bad, then I reckon it's time to pack up shop, and that's Fantastic Four. It's now been called Fantastic Four: First Steps. What do you think of that title, first of all?
Yeah, I don't really know what to think of that title or what they're even trying to achieve with that title. Like I think I said this to you before we started this recording, and it sort of sounds like a baby. Like it's like such and such is taking their first steps, and maybe that's what they're going for. You know, maybe this is the formation of the Fantastic Four. Who knows? But I mean, just call it Fantastic Four. Like you don't have to put all these weird words after your movies all the time.
Yeah. For me, it's giving the Lego Movie the second part. You know,
Maybe the
is that
worst
what it was
title
called?
ever.
Yeah, the Lego Movie 2, the second part, or whatever they called it.
Yeah.
It's giving me that kind of vibes. I think they could have really just gotten away with Fantastic Four.
Yep.
But to put First Steps, that's not a very exciting title, you know. Even something like Kang Dynasty has a bit more creativity to it, and that movie's never going to be made now.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
But the creativity in that title was, at least there was some creativity there. But First Steps are, I mean, maybe it'll have some sort of significance, but yeah, for me, I wouldn't be surprised if they change this title a few more times before it's released in 2026 or 2027, whenever it's going to come out.
I've got a question for you. Is this worse than what was it? It was Fan Four Stick Four or whatever the hell it was called.
No, I actually like that one.
Oh, you like that one?
Yeah, I like that one because it's it's not just being the basic Fantastic Four. You know, like James Gunn's now doing his movie and calling it Superman, which is obviously going to clash with the previous movie called Superman. And so instead, you know, Zack Snyder went for Man of Steel, which is another word for Superman. So Fan Stick, you know, changed it slightly, but you know, it was a shit movie, so people were going to make fun of the title. But yeah, for me, I think you got to do either some other name for the Fantastic Four, or you just got to make it Fantastic Four. But you know, whatever. Either way, this movie, it's really make or break for the MCU, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the most important family, and I would argue in the entire Marvel comic run. So
Absolutely, and there's so much material there for them to use, as well as the X-Men, and no announcements about the X-Men, which is interesting, because they should be getting going on that straight away.
For sure.
Because if they're not doing it, we're not going to see the X-Men for 6 years, and that's a really long time. You know, people might have forgotten about the MCU in 6 years.
Yeah.
So for me, I want to see less of the Thunderbolts and Captain America, and I want to see more of Fantastic Four and X-Men. You know, let's really focus on those, make sure they're really good. And because we can definitely build a universe out of that. You know, there's so much material there that fans would be really interested to see.
Yeah.
And then we can forget all about the Avengers. It doesn't matter that we don't have the good Avengers anymore. But that's clearly not the path they're going down, because they want to make those $2 billion movies.
Exactly. And I think that sort of is a good segue into our next point, where the Avengers movies are probably going to be grossing upwards of $2 billion, because who have we got back in the main chair? None other than
Iron Man himself.
None other than Robert Downey Jr. Is returning. So what do we think of that?
Yeah, I don't know how to feel, really. A lot of people think it's a bit of a bizarre decision to cast someone who is literally the most recognizable actor or character in your universe as somebody else.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a very, very bizarre choice. But clearly what they're doing here is they want butts in seats, because they can tell that because of all the crap movies and TV shows they've been doing lately, people are starting to not care about Marvel movies. And they're starting to not care about just normal superhero movies, because they're all terrible. You know, think about all the superhero movies we've had just in the past 2 or 3 years alone.
Yeah.
I think maybe 1 or 2 of them you could classify as good, and then there's about maybe 15 that are just awful. So it's not in a good space at the moment. And for me, this decision is not creative. This is a decision that came from the producers. You know, Kevin Feige, perhaps himself, has gone, okay, how do we get people talking about the MCU again? Okay, let's go back to the dude who started it all and the dude who carried this franchise, and that's Robert Downey Jr. I know nothing about Doctor Doom, but I feel like he's not the typical casting for Doctor Doom.
No.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm personally very weirded out by this decision, but look, he's a terrific actor, so I'm sure he'll do a great job. But so, yeah, for me, it's a bit weird.
What I've been seeing circulating a lot is that, and I haven't read any comics in a very, very long time, and I don't even remember any comics relating to this, but there might be a possibility of Tony Stark, Iron Man, becoming a variant of Doctor Doom, or if there's a Doctor Doom variant out there that's Iron Man.
That sort of stuff. I mean, look, after seeing the Deadpool movie recently, which made fun of this, I'm done with all this variant nonsense. Like all this multiverse or variant of Tony Stark, variant of Captain America, John Krasinski, Fantastic Four, all that stuff. It's gone nowhere. I think it's time to put the multiverse aside and
focus on good stories.
Yeah, so, but this decision still isn't focusing on good stories. This is just focusing on marketing.
Yeah.
And Robert Downey Jr. has delivered that for them because my Instagram feed has just been him taking his mask off as
Yep.
Doctor Doom the whole day. So they've got their marketing, you know, they've got their marketing blitz.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I'm concerned about the creativity behind that decision or
Yep.
the lack thereof. Yeah.
I have to say, like, this is a genius marketing maneuver on part of Kevin Feige and anyone involved at Marvel Studios for hiring Robert Downey Jr. because without a lead like him, these movies were gonna do significantly worse than they are right now, now that he's involved and is on board with these films. So, I mean, props to Kevin Feige for coming up with this one, I guess, but the longevity of the decision, I mean, when the movie comes out, like Marvel's going to be in such a weird space because we're going to have Iron Man as Doctor Doom. So I don't really know if I can see this working for them in the long run if they want to keep this going, which they obviously do.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this whole thing just because there was only two major announcements that they made. The rest we sort of already knew, or they were just announcing the exact same thing again. So they've announced that the Russo bros are directing the Avengers movies because they fired the previous directors, which is never a good sign, but it is what it is. Robert Downey Jr. coming back into the MCU. Both of those decisions stink of desperation, of, oh crap, we made a mistake by giving the keys to the MCU kingdom to people that have never written
to the Leslie Headlands of the world.
Pretty much, yeah. These writers, I mean, we went through them when we were reviewing things like WandaVision. You know, they gave the keys to writers that had not, like, don't know the comics, don't have the experience. I'm actually really excited because I saw a post by the Russo brothers talking about how Avengers Secret Wars was the first comic they read, or perhaps the comic that made them comic fans. So that gets me really excited because if there's not that sort of care for the source material, like we've seen with all of these Disney Plus shows that they've been doing, and things like Black Widow and all that nonsense.
Yeah.
You know, if there's care behind the source material, it will be good. At the very least, it will have things that the comic fans will want to see. So usually that means it's going to be a good film. Yeah,
and I mean, the Russo bros, in terms of the MCU, outside of the MCU, I can't really speak for them, but they've done a fantastic job with the MCU, and sort of telling a story across multiple films, which I think is what we really, really need right now. We need some sort of connectivity between these movies because they're all just in shambles at the moment.
As long as they don't try and connect, you know, WandaVision and all of that to Avengers Doomsday. You know, for me, we've just got a cut-off stage, or Stage 4 is a great name for it, but it's called Phase 4. Phase 4, we just need to pretend that never happened, and we need to sort of reset. We need the Fantastic Four to be good, and we need the X-Men to come out and be good. Then we can go into some good Avengers movies directed by actually competent directors. But meanwhile, before that even happens, we're going to get Captain America and the Thunderbolts. Now, who's directing those movies? No idea, which is very bad, very bad sign. Very bad sign. So look, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So I think we'll leave it there, unless you have any further thoughts you want to add.
No. That's a good place to leave it.
All right, so we'll leave it there. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below about the MCU. What are you excited for the most? What was the announcement that really sort of got your comic nerd inside you really buzzing? For me, obviously, the Russo bros. That was the most exciting thing. What about you, Jen? Was it Robert Downey Jr. or?
No, for me, it was probably the Thunderbolts, to be honest.
Oh, really? Interesting. Don't forget the asterisks, by the way.
Oh, sorry. Thunderbolts asterisks.
Because it's really edgy. The movie's really edgy. Are you getting that vibe? It's doing something different with the title, which is really edgy.
I mean,
Cool.
look, if we're talking for real, the only thing that got me remotely excited was Robert Downey Jr. because I feel like all of the other stuff we already knew it. Like I think we had already heard that the Russo bros were returning.
Certainly rumored, yeah.
So like, I mean, the only surprise was Robert Downey Jr. Really.
Mm. And even that was rumored heavily. I just didn't
Was it?
believe it because I thought it was such a stupid idea. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that was rumored.
Yeah, I thought it was. I dismissed it completely. You know, Robert Downey Jr. as Doctor Doom. That's a stupid idea. That's never going to happen. Oh, here we are.
But here we are.
Anyway,
Alrighty
we'll leave it
then.
there for today. Obviously, we'll cover all these projects as they come out. Until then, I'll catch you next time.